how do I find problems that I can be useful for? And I think like at the end of the day, really, you get paid in return for usefulness.
Hi there, Salena Kulkarni with another episode of the Freedom Warrior podcast. In today's episode, I'm excited to be sharing with you an interview I did with a friend of mine, Taki Moore. Now, I sometimes think of Taki as a cheeky teenage boy in the body of a man. He's a super sweet soul who is often described as a business genius and a thought leader. Those people who actually know him quite well suggest he's a barrel of contradictions. He makes tons of money, no question, but on many levels, he still lives a little bit like a uni student. He is regarded as someone who's a global thinker in the marketing space and has a fabulous way of making sense of the world, including money and what it means. In this interview, he shares how his attitudes to money have shifted over time and why there is still massive opportunities for those who tackle it properly in the decade ahead. Now, on with the show. So, Taki Moore, welcome to the show. I am so excited to have you here.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time. Super excited. We've known each other for forever.
Yeah. Feels like it.
Hung out in the Philippines and hung out at Black Belt and at Empower You and all
at weddings.
At weddings, exactly.
Yeah, well, look, I have to say we were having a thread of a conversation. Like there's so many things I want to talk to you about. We were having a thread of a conversation just before we pressed record.
Yeah.
So I actually want to pick up there. Sure. You are currently standing in your brand new home.
Yeah, I'm nipples deep in cardboard boxes right now, which is terrifying.
Yeah, I bet. And, you know, the last few years for you, you have totally been the super successful traveling nomad with your entire family, all your kit, all your stuff. So I'd love to just start there and just say, what gives? Like, why are you now in your own house? Because this is got to be good.
It's definitely not normal for us. We've been traveling the world for 3.5 years, nomading because we thought it'd be fun, and it has been. We promised the kids that we'd be home from from New Year's till March, and then travel again after the March event. And then someone in China ate that, and here we are. So no one's gone anywhere for a while. And I've always been resistant to the whole idea of buying a house and quote unquote settling down, because
that's what grown-ups do.
Yeah, sounds a bit boring, to be honest. And I had a conversation with, do you know Kylie Ryan?
I do.
Yeah. And so she asked me, pretty clear that one of my big values is freedom. And so we were chatting about freedom. And she says, so if you're traveling because you need to be free and your need for freedom means you can't buy a house, you're not free to buy a house, how free are you really? And she like mentally painted me into a corner. I was like, crap.
And that's voodoo.
She like, she did a little bit of Jedi on me. And then honestly, I think so I love that we get a place that I know this sounds like obvious for everyone else, but it's never been a thing for me at all, is like having a spot, having a place that the kids can grow up in. And that's all super exciting. One of the things that I was reluctant to buy a house for was because it felt like forever, and forever feels like a long commitment. And I was like, we could rent a house, like the kind of house I'd love to live in is going to be super expensive to buy and a little bit expensive to rent, but commensurately, like not proportionately so. And I thought we could rent somewhere amazing. And if we got sick of it, we could just change it and rent somewhere else amazing. So that was the idea. I had a vision for what I'd love that house to be like. So like big and modern and doesn't need anything done and right near the beach and near good food and good coffee. And then when I looked at my dream house and, Kira Marie's dream budget, they didn't fit,
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so I was like, I felt like I was going to have to like settle for a house that I didn't want to like, I'd rather pay more money and live somewhere extraordinary, because I think like how you live is like, it's all you got, Anyway, long story short, she was running a virtual conference, a summit for her clients. And we've been looking for houses for a while and found a few that were kind of close, but not it. And I was like, hey, I found this house. Love to check it out. Do you want to come? And she was the day before her event. She's like in prep mode. She said, no, you just go there and FaceTime me. And so I FaceTimed her and she's like, it looks great. I'm like, it's double the amount that you wanted to spend, actually double. And she's like, I know, but it looks great. So let's do it. And so we did it and we're stoked. It's good.
Love that. That's great. So look, there's so many little threads there in that little conversation about freedom. One of the things I know about you is that your parents separated when you were younger.
Yep.
What I'd really love to understand is, how did each of them influence your views around money and wealth? Because obviously there's some of that tied up.
Yeah, so different. So mum and dad split up when I was 2. I lived with mum. And so let's start with her. Personality-wise, I'm much more like my mum in many, many ways. I've got definitely some elements of dad. So growing up with mum, thinking about money, I've got like 2 big obvious like beliefs. Firstly, you need to know that we had a Communist Party hotline in our house.
Okay.
Like an actual red phone that rang Communist Party headquarters, and ASIO had files on my grandparents, and they were under surveillance, and so very socialist. And
wow.
Money's bad. Americans are capitalist pigs. From each as much as they're able to, each according to their need. Money's bad. So I'm the only person in our family who runs a business. Dad had done some, my stepdad did some consulting, but growing up, money was definitely not a good thing. And people who had it were not good people. And Americans, God bless them, were the worst of them all. That's what I inherited from mum, belief-wise. Dad was good with money. My dad's an architect, and he was didn't run a business, but was incredibly disciplined, I suppose, around money. He was a saver. He invested. He took a percentage of what he earned every month and put it aside, and lived really, really well. Lives really, really well. He's didn't have more kids. He remarried. And honestly, I felt like, because the contrast between how the family was in Melbourne, where I got with mum, and up here in Sydney, where I was with, when I visited dad, was so different. I resonated much more with mum, who seemed to be about people and care, and dad's very, very formal, quite cold if you don't know him, and much more into things and beauty and the aesthetic of, he's an architect. So, everything looks perfect, but there's not a lot of friendships or warmth. And so I kind of thought that if that's how dad was, and dad had money, and I'm more like mum, then that was another, you know what I mean? Another thing.
Very interesting. Well, look,
Look at you psychologizing me. This is
yeah.
great. Thanks, Doc.
Well, look, in doing some research for today among mutual friends, there were a couple of comments which suggested that you don't actually really care for money. So that kind of reconciles with what you just said.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this question. How does that reconcile to the persona in Black Belt, which is the coaching program that you run, where numbers and money are definitely the barometer for success?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? What the hell do you do with the money? I like buying shoes, but I don't wear them very often. Totally agree. It's funny, right in the sweet spot of the work we do is more money and more meaning and more freedom. And if you had to pick 2 out of 3, frankly, I'd pick the freedom and the impact. Money is way easier to count, and it's frankly, people come to us because they want their money to go up. And I love seeing people make progress, and I love seeing clients hit goals. At the end of the day, is it enough? No, it's not even close to enough. Quintessential kind of awful rich guy is not who I want any of me or any of our clients to become. How do I reconcile it? I think, I think I reconcile it like this. I definitely want our clients' monies to go up. Like I 100% do, because of a bunch of reasons. And if I ran a program about meaning and freedom, 0 people would buy it.
Fair enough.
And I think, frankly, selling money and tricking people into meaning and freedom, I'll take that every day. So that's kind of a little bit about how I reconcile it.
There's a little bit of Mark Zuckerberg in there, I reckon.
Tell me more. I don't know. Say more about that.
Well, you could be likened to the Mark Zuckerberg of the marketing world. So same t-shirt most days, often barefoot.
Mm-hmm. Is that
not really caring about the money in itself.
No, like what are you going to do with it? Like it's fun to count. Like I like nice things. I'm not a car. Like some people, when they hit their $1 million, they buy like Ferrari, like Maseratis and stuff. I'm like, cool. I don't really like cars. I do have a Super 73 electric bike, like electric motorbike that I love. I like nice things, but I'm frankly, experiences are, places and faces are much more collectible to me than money.
So let me ask you about that then. When you think about holidaying and spending money, what are the limits for you? Where do the limits lie? Because you've done some pretty wild things in the last 2-3 years.
Yeah, I don't think there's limits. There's definitely not limits.
You always travel first class?
No, we almost never travel first class. When we're traveling, it's usually like if it's Kira Marie and me together without the kids, then we're at the front of the plane. The rest of the time, mostly we're in the back of the plane with everybody else. If we get upgraded, like we've got a lot of points, although currently, in a wise move, I put all of my points into Virgin Australia, and then Virgin went bankrupt about 3 months ago. So I got points. I can't do anything with them. I love staying at lovely, like nice places. I don't love Airbnb a lot, to be honest. If Airbnb had a button that you could click that would, for $50 a day or something, have like housekeeping come and like do the dishes and make the beds, I would smash that button and I would be super happy with it.
There's an idea.
There's an idea. Airbnb's got like Airbnb Plus and Lux. So often we'll stay at like Airbnb Plus if we can find somewhere lovely. So we hoteled for the first 3 months we were in. There's a great website called mrandmrssmith.com that has like gorgeous boutique hotels from around the world. And so for the first 3 months of our nomad trip, that's what we did. And it was great. Oh my goodness. So lovely. And then Kira Marie did the maths. It was like $2,000 a night for most places. And then she's like, you know what, if we keep this up for a year, that's like $750,000 of hotels this year. How do you feel about that? I'm like, oh, that feels kind of excessive. So the other thing with often with hotels, if you've got a big crew, you're in separate rooms, and I don't want to be in separate rooms from my kids. I want to be together. So if we can do a suite, I love that. Otherwise we're in a really nice house and we just kind of message the guys and get housekeeping to come every day or every couple of days and just the place.
Yeah, I love that. So tell me about the dynamic that's evolved between you and Kira Marie. I mean, she's a Wonder Woman too, but like yes, you kind of sound like you kind of leave the decision making around, where the money goes to her. How does that influence the way that you speak about it in the household? Like, what do you think you've taught your kids about money and success?
Wow. Amazing. Good. These are great questions. Ones I haven't really thought about much. So we've got a really interesting dynamic. We are a bit of a, we've got really different styles, but we work pretty well together. Like I'd say 90% of the time we're just a force. When we first met, we figured out that I make the friends and she keeps the friends. And it's been a little bit like that with money. But not to say she doesn't make money. She makes her own money as well. And if it was up to me, I would probably spend it about as quick as I made it. But because of her, every couple of months, she'll just like show me a screenshot with, there's our day-to-day accounts and I keep an eye on Stripe. So the money comes in. I like to look at that every day to kind of know that we're winning and this month's better than last month and that sort of stuff. she's been the prime force between us, us investing and us not just making good money. She's been the difference between revenue and profit, and frankly, between business profit and personal money. How do we talk about it in front of the kids? It's really interesting. We've got 6 kids, and 3 living here at home with us, and 3 who are kind of like, it was Jotham's birthday yesterday. He's 27 yesterday.
Wow.
And if you split them in half and go 3 and 3, they had really different growing ups. The first 3 we lived in sort of Quakers Hill, Castle Hill, a little bit in the inner west, Gladesville and stuff. And then the other 3 have pretty much spent most of their life here in the Northern Beaches. The early ones, there was a lot of 2-minute noodles and a lot of, Maccas and fish and chips and like cheap food. And the others are organic and like used to certain things.
Is that just part of your education, or was that because there was struggle earlier on?
Oh yeah, it's because we had no money.
Mm.
Yeah, it's because we had no money. And obviously part of it's the environment you're in. Like we always ate pretty healthy growing up as kids, but like when we moved up here to Sydney from Melbourne, I made $23,400 a year, and I've got 3 kids at the time. Like, how much can you really do on $23,400? Not that much, So you just do the best you can, and you go to Aldi and you buy the cheap stuff, and if you treat the kids, it's fish and chips at Big Chiefs around the corner, Thank you, Big Chiefs, for many meals. So anyway, so they've had different phases.
Yep.
I think in terms of how we teach the kids money, I read a book, Barefoot Investor for Families.
Great book.
Great book. Super simple. 3 jobs, 3 minutes, 3 jars. Just like the best system ever. And so that's that. When the kids want stuff, that was game changing for me. So when we first did the jars and stuff, we went to the mall, like shopping center, the next day, and Jacinta's like a great, oh, Dad, can I have this? Can I have that? I'm like, of course. How much money have you got in your spendings jar? $6 at the time. Okay, well, how much is the thing? $4. So do you want to spend it on that or not really? No, not really. Okay, cool. And we just moved on. It just made life as a parent significantly easier, and also like for her to like have her own money and like that feels really good.
Yeah, love that. That's so great. That's really great.
And like see-through jars you can actually look at and count the money in. It's kind of awesome.
Let me change directions a little bit. You are very good at making it look like it's easy to make money. And if we assume that wealth creation and money are 2 separate camps,
I think they are
2 separate, disciplines.
Yeah.
What do you care about when it comes to the wealth side of things? And how does that show up for you? Like, or do you not care? Like, what are your thoughts on that other camp, which is the wealth?
I don't really care yet. I probably should care more, to be honest. I certainly don't feel like I've got that part of my world down pat yet.
Do you think that's because you've found a way to make money easily?
Yeah, probably, possibly. It's also because I'm very in the present. I don't live in the future. We've got a mutual friend, Dale, who I love to bits. Every time I meet Dale, I'm like, Dale, you just live in the future. He's got his 6-year plan, and he's like, I'm not like that. I'm very like money-wise. I'm like, how do we make money by Thursday? That's always been like you know what I mean? Like, what's quick and dirty and easy? And we've just been good at that, and now we're good at helping people do that. I'm not a long range. We're going to take 3% of everything we earn and put it over there. That doesn't feel fun to me.
Do you think that's one of the lessons that your kids would say they have learned from you, that making money is easy?
Probably. Yep. Probably. When you're still figuring the stuff out, and like we're all on a journey, right? So I'm sure there's like a million things I'll still learn. I hope there is. I remember reading something from Kiyosaki, and he was like, instead of saying, I can't afford that, saying, how can I afford that? And like, that just puts you back in the take responsibility, like locus of control seat, which I think is super important for every part of your life.
Yep.
I don't think it's particularly hard to make money, to be honest. It's like find people who have a problem and offer to solve it. You know, it's not that hard. Like, you know, everything gets like, it's like, if you're useful, you'll make money. And if you're not useful, you won't. It's kind of about that. Like, I know, I'm sure there's a million like pieces of nuance, but like, frankly, it's not hard to make money. Certainly that hasn't been my experience. I think it's been hard to get used to the idea of making it and having it like that. Like when we moved to Sydney, we made $23,400. I remember the job, right? I worked my butt off, really freaking good at it. One of the few jobs I was really good at. And because it was all jazz hands, you know, and I'm good at jazz hands. And, you know, smashed, like absolutely melted the company records, and then asked for a pay rise. And I got $2,000 a year pay rise, which turned out to be like I don't know, like this much per hour or this much per, like, I was like, huh. Anyway, so fast forward, we do first ever webinar. And at the end of this webinar, 46 new clients. You know, anyway, long story short, we made, maybe it was my second webinar, I did like 30 grand on a webinar. And I just realized that in 60 minutes, I made what it took me a whole year to make 3 years earlier. And I just bawled. It's like, I could not believe it. Just like grateful and lucky and hard to get your head around, to be honest. Yeah. So there's been a few of those, like shedding skin, getting my possibilities like stretched. One of the things I love most about Boardroom is just getting around people who play a bigger game and a better game in all sorts of different parts of their life. It's like really mind expanding. It's cool.
Let me kind of finish up with a question that I'm sure you would care about. You speak often to younger people about life and business and how to make it all work.
Yep.
On the topic of money, I don't know if you've ever spoken about that topic, but if you were trying to give advice to people who are maybe a little, you know, stressed right now, or who are, you know, uncertain about, you know, what a post-COVID world looks like, what would your advice be?
Yeah, great. Just solve the world's problems. Thank you, Salena. Awesome. Yeah, great.
I know you've got some pearls there.
Yeah, I got two thoughts. The first thing that comes to mind is actually a story of a client of ours called Jason Everett, who you know, who's an extraordinary guy, coaches hair salons. And he was at a conference once, and the facilitator says, okay, we're going to play a game. And Jason just goes to his table and says, okay, we're going to win this. And somebody on the table said, that's a bit cocky or arrogant, don't you think? And he's like, well, no, I mean, maybe, but think about it. Like right now, nobody knows what the game is. And given that nobody knows what the game is, the team who's kind of most focused and most like, given that the playing field is very level right now, if we show up right, we've got a really good chance to nail this. And I think like when COVID hit, you know, nobody had a plan for it. Like nobody's got a clue what to do right now. And so given that the playing field is really level, I think this is a chance to be a bit like Jason Everett and go, okay, we're going to win this. And frankly, kind of will it into happening. So that's the first thing, is like, it's a level playing field. There's so much opportunity right now. Like depending on on what you do work-wise, there's some like serious challenges and there's some serious opportunities depending on kind of how you, like I've got friends who do really similar to work to us, but in a corporate space. And they are hurting right now because, you know, guess what corporates did? Well, if we're not getting together, we don't need conferences, therefore we don't need speakers and trainers. Okay, so they're like, we were really lucky. Our clients, for the most part, don't work with corporate. They work with small businesses who are figuring things out and still very active. So there's opportunity and danger in both camps. So I think the first thing is like level playing field. If we just decide we're going to win, I think we're going to do okay. Second thing, as much as the economy changes, the micro economy is this. I have a problem, you have a solution, I give you money to solve my problem. That's the deal. Like the economy is like two people, one with a problem, one with a solution, transact. One fixes and one pays, and that's the deal. And so that's not going away anytime soon. And so I think the answer is always like, how do I find problems that I can be useful for? And I think like at the end of the day, really, you get paid in return for usefulness. And, you know, it's not super glamorous, but like being useful is kind of awesome.
I love that.
I don't know if that's useful.
That was an epic answer. I think you should publish a book on just that little excerpt. That's
being
fantastic.
useful.
Yeah, I love it.
I used to work for this guy called Grant, and he fired me. Thank God he fired me. So, like we're best mates. Like we're really good friends right now. And he fired me. One of the things he fired me for was not being good at asking for the money, because I was terrified of asking for the money. And he took me to his mentor, this guy called Klaus, who had hundreds of thousands of staff around the world, and very like ridiculously wealthy. And Klaus used to say that money is a byproduct of doing things well. And I've never counted money, but I've always counted people. So I'm much more interested in how many people we have in Black Belt, because that's how many people we're helping. The money, you know, the money's just it's my secondary number. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I always count people, and I don't have dollar goals, but I've got people goals. And actually the only money goal that I've ever really cared about was can we get 50 coaches to $1 million a year in a year? Because that's a people goal, and it's about their money, and I'll be taken care of. You know what I mean? It's kind of, anyway.
I totally love that. That is just so profound. And I really want to thank you. A lot of your answers have been so insightful today, Taki.
Thanks for having a real conversation. That was fun. It was really, really different. It's good.
A little birdie told me one thing that I want to share with you. I want to ask you. You were once a huge fan of dancing and singing on stage, especially to Grease Lightning.
Yeah.
Is there much of that going on these days?
No, yeah, that was one of the lowest points in my career, to be honest. So Brent and Dale, who we love, Dale Beaumont and Brent Williams ran this amazing program called Empower You. And they ran it together. They started it when they were teenagers. And it's like a life skills program for teens. And Dale started writing books, got really busy, and Brent needed like backup Dale to kind of go to Singapore and speak. And so I was like, dude, anyway, Grant Lewis, my last boss, connected us. That's how this all happened. And so I'm in Singapore and I'm learning the curriculum. I got to teach this thing. And I find out the morning of that one of the things that Dale did, and I'm backup Dale, so therefore I have to do, is I have to lead the 300 Singaporean teenagers from stage dancing.
Oh, that's too
dance.
funny.
There's nothing about me that enjoys it. Anyway, so I'm like, dude, I can't dance. I would rather naked wrestle a lion in the Colosseum than dance. Like I'm just terrified of it. But you know, it's in the script and I have to do the script. And so next thing you know, I'm like go Grease Lightninging terribly in front of 300 Singaporean teenagers. And I had like a plant in front of me, a girl, Rebecca, who she was a good dancer. She was one of the assist team, and I had to just like follow her moves.
I would love to see a video of that.
I'm so glad there isn't one. At the end, I walk off stage and I'm like sweating bullets and just like terribly embarrassed. And Brent is like the best debriefer of all time. So Brent just goes, so how do you think that went? I was like, oh, God. I think we both know how that went, Brent. And let's never do that ever again. So
you've had a lot of funny experiences pre-black belt for sure.
100%.
That's great.
Awesome.
Taki Moore, thank you so much.
Thank you. That was fun.
Your time. Thanks for listening to the Freedom Warrior podcast. First of all, if you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to avoid missing out on future episodes. If you're interested in fast tracking towards being financially free, go to freedomwarrior.com.au, get in touch, and look forward to catching up with you next time. Take care.